to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody talking. My name is Ashley Harkness, and I am the host for this episode of Toastmaster Time. This episode, we have three fine speakers, Toastmasters all, who are going to be making presentations that I'm sure will be educational, inspirational, and on top of their speaking game. You, the audience, will have a chance to see some people who are really out there making communication possible. And for our first presenter, please help me welcome Debbie Warren. Debbie, welcome to Toastmaster Time. How long have you been a Toastmaster?
I've been a Toastmaster for about 2 years now.
2 years. And what brought you to Toastmastering?
I wanted to become a better speaker.
That's a very good thing. And anything else? Were there other goals you found along the way?
It helped me to be more confident in expressing myself.
Confidence is extremely important. It's good. It's good. It develops that. All right. The speech that you're doing today is something that is about yourself, and the purpose of your speech is to give emotions that impact the audience. That's what I've done here. Your path is from what's called motivational strategies. What made you decide to choose that strategy, that particular path?
I wanted to share my journey in developing my own emotional intelligence and help others to do the same.
You'll be understanding your leadership style, and with this, I think this is going to be a very interesting presentation. I look forward to it. Are you ready to give your speech?
I am.
Well, okay. I'm going to give you a couple of moments to get over to your location, and while that's happening, I'll explain to the audience at home a little bit more about this business of pathways with Toastmasters. The presenters choose a particular path that they wish to follow of 11, and those give her an opportunity to expand out her skills. So, we're ready? So let's hear from Debbie Warren. Where's my best friend? Where's my best friend, Debbie Warren?
How many of you have lost someone close to you, and that loss affected you your whole life? I lost my identical twin sister in vitro. That loss created an emptiness inside of me, a feeling that something was missing. I lost a part of me. Identical twins they share 100% of the same DNA. And they share also an unconditional love and trust and support and friendship for life. Losing my twin caused me to be on a perpetual search for my best friend. It caused me to look outside of myself to fill in the energy that helped me connect, feel the feeling of being connected to being complete. Losing my twin sister also caused me to take to people quicker than they would take to me. I didn't understand that identical twins think differently than other people. And because they are born with a best friend for life, they just think that everyone is loving and trusting and supportive. And they don't really understand a lot about the real world out there. Since I didn't have that sister, I learned along the way some painful lessons. But that pain propelled me to continue to look for that energy that would complete me. As a child, I did find a friend, and when that friend went into the hospital for 1 whole year with tuberculosis, she went into the hospital 1 week before my own mother died. During that year, I was feeling tremendous pain and stress because I had just lost my friend again, as well as my own mother. During the time that my friend was in the hospital, as she was being nurtured back to health, I was lost and started to understand that she had disconnected from me during that year. I learned that when I was invited to my friend's pre-wedding dinner, that I wasn't even in the wedding. This again caused an emotional feeling of loss and rejection and separation. Life is a journey, it's not a destination. As I was working my way up the Maslow's hierarchy of motivational needs, I did realize I mastered survival techniques. But I also learned along the way that I wanted to find out who I was. And that journey took me up to a place of learning to understand energy and how the energy within us affects the energy outside of us, which also attracts certain people to you. When watching the movie Alice in Wonderland, Alice went down the rabbit hole to learn who she was. She was curious about what she would find there. She asked the Mad Hatter, "Who am I?" He said to her, "Alice, fill yourself up with your muchness, not anyone else's. Then you will find who you are." As I worked my way up the emotional ladder of emotional intelligence, I learned to open up my own intuition and discernment so that I could make healthy choices for better relationships. And guess what? I found my own best friend. Me, myself, and I.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Thank you very much. A speech that talks about a journey in life, suffering from loss, and bringing herself back to finding herself. Very rewarding presentation. Thank you very much. Our next speaker, help me welcome Linda Patten. Linda, welcome to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody talking.
Thank you, Ashley. It's good to be here.
Okay, so how long have you been in Toastmasters?
Oh, I have a very short journey in Toastmasters. I've actually only been a member for 2 months. However, I did start with the Speechcraft program and actually got a chance to experience speaking for 8 weeks.
8 weeks, that's a training program where you actually go through the whole process, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's a good start.
And it's a great way to start pathways.
But I understand that your starting in communication and leadership goes back a bit. Weren't you a member of our armed services?
As a matter of fact, I spent 15 glorious years in the U.S. Army, met my husband there, and exited as a major. So I did a lot of command and leadership.
Well, congratulations and thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir.
Very much so that. You're going to be giving us a speech today from the pathway of dynamic leadership. I assume you have an awful lot of experience with that, so this is going to be rounding out your presentation for us.
Yes.
Your project is Understanding Your Leadership Style, and the purpose is to find that leaders are more effective and confident if they develop their styles and go with it.
Exactly.
So my question to you is at this point, are you ready to give your presentation?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to give you a minute to leave the table and go to your mark. And while that goes on, I'll be telling the audience at home a little bit more about your presentation. Pathways gives you the opportunity to pick and select one particular path that you can follow through a whole series of levels and projects. Today's project from Linda Patten is very simple. The title is called, and I'll get to that. Our speaker is Linda Patten, Leadership, Command, Influence, and Comfluential. Leadership, Command, Influence, and Comfluential, Linda Patten.
Leadership, one of the most maligned words in the English language. When I thought of myself being a leader, I wanted to run screaming to the convent. The irony is, I would have been selected as the Reverend Mother and I never would have seen it coming. My very favorite philosopher, Groucho Marx, once said, out of 1,000 men, only one is a leader of men. The other 999 follow women. So I ask you this question. If that's the case, then why is less than 12% of the CEOs in the United States and less than 20% of the C-suite and board of directors jobs are held by women? And that statistic has not changed in over 10 years. Where are all those women leaders? So what I've learned about all of this is that there are 3 styles that seem to fall out of all of the styles that people can talk about. There are 8 actually in the dynamic leader pathway. So I want to talk about 3. The first is command. The second is influence. And the third is confluential. And I'll tell you more about that in a minute. So command is the masculine side. It's the man in a suit with the pockets square, little snow on the side of his head, speaks with dignity and with drama, and is always telling you what to do. This is a type of leader that I learned a whole lot about. In fact, I have my command, honestly. I learned how to command standing in front of 3 battalions with 5 companies in each battalion and 120 women per company. And I had to command them all so that the parade moved smoothly. But it doesn't always work. When you tell people, if you're a firefighter or a police officer, it works. But it doesn't work in corporate, and it definitely doesn't work in entrepreneurship. So that takes us to the second leadership style, influence. This is the female side. It's compassion, it's empathy, it's all of those wonderful soft skills that men don't know what to do with. In fact, when you have that style, they look at you like, are you crazy? That's not a leadership style. Well, what we look at here is really a dichotomy. There are women who use the influence style, but they come across as Wonder Woman, or you can do this. Or they come across as mom, who's very sweet, baking cookies, and really, wiping your nose when you cry or whatever it might be. Neither one of those really work well, and the men don't know what to do with you. And oftentimes we're not very effective just with influence. So the third style is the confluential. This is a joining of command and influence. It brings the best of both. So it brings empathy, compassion, creativity, collaboration, and that's what leads. That's the feminine side. And then what follows is the masculine, the command, the organization, the structure, the strategy. And we as true leaders need both sides. We need the feminine to lead with the masculine supporting. Without that, we can't lead effectively. And it's so very, very important to blend those two. That's when magic happens. So I ask you to step up, step out of hiding, and step into your confluential leadership. Because when we bring the masculine and feminine qualities together, men and women then can see the way to build deep, dynamic, and effective leader-follower relationships. So I ask you at this point to be bold, be unapologetic, be courageous, dare to lead.
I'm convinced. I'll dare to lead. Thank you very much, Linda, for an exceptional presentation. Educational, talked about the structure of how leadership really can work. It's very necessary for us today in our times when leaders are really something we need in the world, which is what Toastmasters can help you with when you go to that. Now, let's move on. Our next speaker, Trevor Justice. Trevor, welcome to Toastmaster Time.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. How long have you been in Toastmasters?
On and off since 2009.
On and off since 2009. That's very good. What club are you representing?
Heart to Heart.
Excellent. What brought you to that particular club?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm an entrepreneur. I started, scaled, and sold a business. And the club that I was in before Heart to Heart only had a few other self-employed people.
Okay.
And so I discovered that Heart to Heart is a club for entrepreneurs, people that are like me, cut from the same cloth. We want to live life on our own terms, and it's a better fit for the kinds of things that I speak about.
It sounds to me like it would be a wonderful opportunity. Now, you identified that your path for pathways for your presentation is presentation mastery, and what you're looking at is basically to use a story within your presentation to carry the ideas going along with that. Sounds really very interesting. So are you ready to give your presentation?
Sure.
Okay, well, I'll give you a couple of minutes to get ready for that, and while that's happening, I'm going to explain to the viewers at home a little bit more about your presentation. The Pathways presentation we have here involves storytelling. And what's going to happen is he's going to give us information and he's going to demonstrate some things for us as part of that. So let's hear from Trevor Justice. Luck favors risk takers. Luck favors risk takers. Trevor Justice.
How many of you want to grow a business, move people with your creative pursuits, or just live life on your own terms? Many of us do. But you can't do it without risk. The good news is that luck favors risk takers. That's why biographies of successful people are filled with stories of the chances they took. But it's something I had to learn. When I was younger, I used to put off my dreams. Next year, I'll get serious with my music. Next year, I'll turn my passion into my profession. But next year came and went. I was in a rut. Anyone been there? Then I saw an inspiring musical called Ragtime. I discovered that the writers honed their craft in a 2-year workshop in New York, and the next submission deadline was a month away. That's when my heart sung out. You've been living a lie, saying someday you'll try to revive the dreams that bring you alive. And my head said, but I don't know anyone in New York. I'm just a pop songwriter. I've never written theater music. Gotta face your fears, let regret turn to tears, and finally listen to your heart's true desire. But I'm afraid to give up my rent-controlled apartment here in Berkeley. Wave caution goodbye, better to fail than never try. Okay, I sent in my demo CD, and today I got this letter. Dear Trevor, out of 500 submissions, 44 people were accepted. Trevor, congratulations. Today is the day, surrender to faith, live your life fearless and fulfilled. So I listened to my heart. I took the chance. Was it worth it? Well, first, that workshop was super inspiring. It led me to win awards, get my songs on Pandora Radio, and collaborate with hit songwriters. And that's not the only chance that paid off. 2 years after landing in New York, my condo was worth $170,000 more than I paid. Was I lucky? Sure, but only because I took a chance. By then, I was convinced luck favors risk takers, doesn't it? Well, that's not what happened next. The next summer, I put up a one-page website called veganrecipes.com. Overconfident, I spent thousands of dollars buying traffic, but I couldn't monetize it. When I returned to California, I rented my New York condo from afar, pulled out the equity, and used it as the down payment on a rundown triplex in Oakland. Then I took out a second mortgage, moved into the top unit, and rented the bottom two. Well, after the 2008 housing crash, my triplex was worth 2/3 of what I owed. My rents declined, my freelance writing work dried up. I became an unemployed, underwater homeowner, living on credit cards, facing foreclosure. I felt scared. I started to doubt myself. Maybe I've been too daring. Maybe my lucky streak is over. But then something weird happened. That little vegan site I started on a whim became my saving grace. Back when I was gung-ho driving traffic to the site, Google took notice and ranked my little site number 3 under the phrase vegan recipes. Over the next few years, 23,000 vegans joined my email list. Was I lucky? Sure, but only because I took a chance. Well, I dreamed of turning my passion for vegan health into a membership site, but I had no idea if anyone would pay for it. The web designer was expensive, and I was almost out of credit. Yet my heart sung out, "Bring it on, bring what you're afraid of, and you'll find out what you're really made of." So I threw a Hail Mary. You make your own luck, don't give up till your dreams appear. I used the last of my credit lines to bootstrap the Vegetarian Health Institute. 7 years later, when I sold my institute, it had thousands of paying students and occasional 6-figure months. Was I lucky? Sure, but only because I took a chance. Eventually, my underwater real estate made an amazing comeback. And that's when it hit home. Some chances test your will before they pay off. You just have to hang in long enough to see them through. You know, not every chance pays off. But if you never take a chance, you'll never know. What risk can you take to get closer to your dreams? Listen to your heart, because luck favors risk takers.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you very much. Trevor Justice. A presentation that talks about what you can do, what risk you can take, and how you can succeed. This is wonderful for a presentation. Thank you very much. Now we're going to change gears here at Toastmaster Time and offer a public service announcement. We'll be right back in another moment.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease,
Freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
Welcome back to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody talking. In this episode, we heard from 3 dynamic speakers giving us ideas, life experiences, hopes and dreams, all in their presentation. One person spoke from a pathway called Presentation Mastery, where he utilized for us not only the words and his story within a story, but he gave us information in songs. He's a songwriter, and he's a person who brings us hope, but also a word of caution saying, if you failed, keep trying, because you never know when you're going to come back up on top. Our first speaker, Deborah, told us about personal loss. Loss is something we've all had, and I think her explanation and symbols really told us what it was like for her in a life journey that brought us to a point where we could say, yes, something like this is similar to us, but we have endured this, and look where we came from. With Linda Patten gave us a whole new viewpoint of leadership and how it can work, leadership styles. She talked about her own experiences being an officer in the Army and having to be the leader commanding a whole battalion, or maybe it was 3 battalions. It was a large number of people. The point being is that leadership skills are not something that you're born with. You learn them by using them, by experiencing them, and those are the lessons that come along with that. I would ask the people in the audience watching tonight to say, ask the question, how did these people come up with these things? These are all elements of what we call the Toastmaster experience. When you come to Toastmasters, you take on the different opportunities to express yourself, to give stories life, and to give other people the opportunity to learn from you and with you as you learn too. My own experience with Toastmasters has taught me this is one of the best parts of it as it goes along. The speakers tonight, some of them aspire to be professional. Some of them wish to be people who use it to make their money, and we were glad they were here. Now, on behalf of the Media Center, where this production comes from, and all of the staff and the workers who made it happen, I want to thank them all for their support, and thank you, the audience. Tonight, we had 3 speakers. We had Deborah Wiener, Linda Patten, Trevor Justice. If you're interested in learning more about Toastmasters, and I hope you are, check it out on the website, Toastmasters International at toastmasters.org, or our local District 57 at district57d57tm.org. You'll find information about what's going on here from the staff, the presenters, and myself, Ashley Harkness. I want to thank you for joining us on this adventure in Toastmastering, because we have a show where everybody is talking, and you will be too. Join Toastmasters.